Bulldog.
Yeah, do you have any Charles Bronson records?
Any who?
On the wire right now, we have artist and musician, Mr. Mark McCoy. Now, Mark, there's a bunch of things I want to cover, and I want to first get into your artistic endeavors. Now, what first introduced me to your artwork was your book, Wound. What's the story behind that book?
The book is a series of collages that I made last year after living a period of life that I felt I couldn't tolerate any longer. So that's sort of my response to it, and coming to some conclusions about who I was and how I was living, how I seem to play into an overall pattern that I see everywhere. But like I needed
some closure?
Not so much closure, because I'm not sure if, like on one hand I could stop behaving in a certain way. I'm not sure if I ever really stopped thinking in certain ways. Maybe gradually over time. I don't think I have enough living experience to fully understand it, but I think given like a time slot of when I was involved in unhealthy relationships and ideas and, living day to day, totally against what I felt was actually real and healthy.
And now a lot of the stuff you put out is done on a very limited basis. Now, is that book still available for purchase, or is it completely out of print?
It's out of print. I go back and forth about things being available. On one hand, I look at it like, if people want to see it, they should be able to buy it. But on the other, I sort of cater to this idea that there's exclusivity in what I do, and that it's momentary, and it's something to be cherished. And underneath that idea of cherishing something, it's not being like a widely available thing. It's like a treasure. I want to make treasures.
Okay. And you just actually wrapped up a solo exhibit in LA for a collection of work titled Hollow. Now, what's the idea behind that material?
That's sort of a continuation of Wound. It's, like a process playing out. It's, a series of 9 drawings that were made within a 2-year period, over which I think I changed quite a bit as a person. And, ideas seem to have stemmed from this concept of me living again and sort of willingly avoiding all the essential red flags that I think go up that you shouldn't be doing. I'm not saying that I was like a drug addict or I was, like killing people, but I really think that day to day, I really wasn't being truthful. I wasn't really following the path that I felt like I should be on, and I knew that I was not doing that, and yet I felt I had to cling to some idea of safety. And so I think that's what those drawings are. They really are holding on to a bunch of junk, ideas that no longer function. And I think that's what comes across in the work. It's black ink on paper, a lot of white space. Basically, there's these isolated structures that
floating in space. Yeah, the fascinating pieces of work. And now you also did an interesting thing for the show. You created an audio soundtrack to accompany that work, and the material is aptly titled Hollow as well. Now, I haven't heard the music, but I heard some pretty dark, a dark companion to the work.
Well, it's a double record, and each side I constructed it in a way that, continually breaks down in terms of structure. And it's really, I think, in tune with the drawings, because you have these structures that are intended to convey an idea or a purpose. Like if you compare a house to a song, it has a purpose. It conveys meaning. And to confuse that, to disassemble that, to break that down, that's the area that I find the interesting part. Is what happens when those things don't actually work. And you spend all this time trying to force them to work, and they just really work against you. Those songs that I made, I think they convey that.
You're also involved in something titled Unveiled, and that's part of the Draw Group art show?
Yeah, that was a bunch of artists that make music that were asked to take part in the group show, and the guy that did it seems really cool. I mean, he asked some people that I think I respect quite a bit.
As artists and musicians?
Yeah, they seem to go hand in hand. I know a lot of them, and it's interesting to think, like, what draws people to do what they do. I mean, there's some sense of community that's, I think, necessary. I don't really need the true loners that don't have that network, that don't have that audience. They don't need an audience. I feel like everyone does in some at least disattached way.
You're currently residing in New York, and you're originally from the Chicagoland area. At what point in time did you make that exodus to the East Coast?
After I finished my undergraduate, I decided, it's time. I could tell that I could very easily just stay there and stagnate, which I felt like was inevitable for anyone that did. Maybe they didn't think that way, but a lot of my friends who I'm still in touch with, they seem to have gone a path that, it's pretty standard. I mean, they get married, they buy a house, they have normal things, they have kids.
Yeah.
I think living here, there's a lot of people that think that way.
Now, as far as the music goes, you've been involved with a number of musical projects over the years. Now, is Das Old still the most current project of yours?
No, that one ended in 2006. We went on a tour, and then that was done.
Okay.
I started a new one called Failures that initially had the guitar player of Das Old involved in it, but since he lives so far away, I think we all just sort of felt that we didn't need to do Das Old number 2, the sort of transatlantic band with people living in separate countries. It was too much to try and get together, do things.
Yeah, I understand there was a pretty intense geographic complication involved with the whole project.
It was constant planning and trying our best to make something happen. Most of the time it didn't work out. Other times it did. I think looking back, we did a lot. We did more than any other band that I've been in. I think it was just that urgency to actually make it happen that rendered all of those results. I mean, we made a bunch of records, went on many tours, so that was pretty cool to be able to do that with that group of guys, because they're like the best guys.
And before that, you were involved with a band called Holy Molar with Justin Pearson of the Locusts. How did you hook up with Justin on that project?
Justin and I knew each other from like 95, I think. When I finished grad school, I decided to take a trip around the country with my friend Nate Wilson. And when we got to San Diego, we just thought it was the most out of control, crazy place. It didn't seem like anyone had anything to do really except just hang out and play music. So it seemed like a nice reverse from, super regimented schooling that I'd been in and living in this crazy urban environment to sort of moving to this, West Coast, sunny, basically a town that you could get by doing nothing and it's perfectly acceptable. The whole town was just a bunch of people that hung out and drank beer and ate burritos. I mean, I got tired of it almost immediately. As soon as I moved there, I felt like, oh fuck, I really shouldn't have done that.
Now that actually brings us to Charles Bronson. Now, what can be said about Charles Bronson?
That was, my first major band. We started when I was 19. Other guys were my age or younger. One of them, I think 2 of them were 16 at the time, so. We were borrowing parents' cars and practicing in parents' basements, and, we had no idea how to really play or anything. We just decided, we gotta do this thing, we gotta do it now, and it's gotta be called this, and we're gonna play all the time.